Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Writers Toolshed. If you'd like to join our writing community on Discord and get access to fantasy writing classes and books on Patreon, check the links in the description. And if you don't want to miss any future episodes, be sure to follow or subscribe. And to support the show, leave a quick rating on Spotify or iTunes and share this episode on social media or with anyone who you think may be interested. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the show. I am delighted to be joined today by Dave Chesson, an author, book marketing Jedi, and founder of the brilliant website Kindlepreneur, which is devoted to book marketing. And Amazon itself has endorsed it, so that's a good measure. Dave, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm really honored to have this opportunity to chat with you because I've been using your sites for a good few years when I started putting books up on Amazon and wasn't getting any sales. So it's really, I found it so helpful. And I know just from reading the bit about you on the site that you've helped some amazing writers as well, like Orson Scott Card and Ted Dekker. So it's a fantastic thing that you've created.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a wild journey. We'll put it that way.
So we're going to talk a bit about that today. And also a very interesting new development on Amazon to do with categories for books. I know you're keen to discuss this, Dave, but we're also going to chat about book marketing more generally, Amazon ads, how the algorithm works, and selling books generally, as well as a bit of writing talk as well.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the beginning then. And can you tell us a bit about you and your journey and how you ended up where you are today?
Yeah. Well, I grew up with dyslexia, and back then there really wasn't much known about it, except you maybe got the title and that was it. There was no help for it, per se. And so through my life, I always thought I was just terrible at English and spelling and also to writing. It turns out that I actually have something called dysgraphia. So, you just never want to watch me actually write on paper. And so you go through your life and you think to yourself, you know what? English isn't my thing. It never will be. I'll never be able to write. So I actually went into things like physics, and science and blah, blah, blah. But, I've really enjoyed the storytelling. I've really enjoyed teaching. I've always enjoyed those things. And so my desire to write never went away. My belief in myself was kind of the limiting factor. But there came a time where it's like, that's it. I'm gonna write. I'm gonna do this. Now,
Yeah,
somebody who doesn't have, years of writing under their belt, who's crafted their writing, blah, 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 like all that. Somebody who's like just getting started. For me, I knew that I can't just sit down and write about anything and it be something that makes not only people want to buy, but also read and then say great things about it. Okay. Instead, I decided to say, you know what? I'm going to try to do as much research as I can to figure out if there's a kind of book or a subject, that people are looking for and they're not finding. Let me start with that. That will give me more confidence in not only writing, but the amount of time and resources I was putting into writing, right?
yeah,
So I started studying Amazon. I started to ask myself, hey, what's kind of information can I glean from them? First off, how can I tell if books are actually making sales or not? And then I started, analyzing why does Amazon choose to show this book over another book? Like, what makes them tick and how can I best understand it? And so I started to create, these algorithms and these inside of Excel sheets and I got like really hardcore into the numbers and tracking. And I was able to take that research and start, focusing on books that I was able to find. Wow, there are a lot of people searching for this and nothing's there. Or they're searching for it and there's this one book and that's all they have. And they don't, and you can tell from their reviews or you can tell from, the experience is that they're not jazzed with it.
yeah,
So I was like, all right, now that I know this, let me approach this. Let me gather the information. Let me put something that's very clear and concise, put together and then publish it. And that was the moment where all of a sudden my writing it wasn't just making sales, in the first month and then going away. It was making consistent sales every month. And so
Yeah.
I was able to stack my author income because it was like this book made this much and then the next book made this much. And so they just stacked. And it was a really awesome and liberating experience. But then
Yeah.
I found out that there was no information out there about this. Nobody was, and this was a while ago. Okay. Like, and no other websites talked about it. Nobody talked about analyzing Amazon or the marketing component to it. And I was like, wow, maybe I should start a website so that people understand that this not only exists, but that this is the kind of information that publishing companies have been using for years. And here we self-publishers are just kind of throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I created Kindlepreneur.com. And as I was building that website, I realized that a lot of authors didn't like using an Excel sheet, because all of a sudden, and then you're like, oh, you got to do all these things. And, authors like, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And that's why I took all of that information and created what was back then it was called KDP Rocket. Now it's called Publisher Rocket.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's kind of been my journey in a nutshell. And it was because of that work. It was because of the software, which, major publishing companies use it to self-published, individuals, bestsellers, all groups, because they used it. That's where I got connected with like Orson Scott Card and Ted Dekker and a whole bunch of others. Because interesting enough, by the way, a lot of those published authors, um, they've written a lot of books that their publishers have rejected, and the books are
Yeah.
just sitting there. So, like with Scott, which by the way, that's Orson Scott Card, he goes by Scott, which is a little something. So if you ever meet him, Scott, and he'll know that it's like, oh, I know you. No, no, you don't,
Yeah.
but I know your middle name. Anyways, Scott, he's got a whole bunch of books that are just sitting in his drawer. They got nothing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Scott, you need to just go ahead and publish it on Amazon. All of a sudden, people see a new Orson Scott Card book.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're gonna do great. You'll be surprised. Also, too, you don't have to give 70% to the publisher. Instead,
Yeah.
sadly, you have to give Amazon 30%, but whatever. You've got a huge email list. You've got a name like this is. So I started doing a lot of work with them. Publishing companies, they for the longest time kind of poo-pooed on Amazon. They didn't, they're like, we don't need to work hard on it. Amazon's going to go away. And then they kept seeing the self-publishing authors like crushing it. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
they're, goodness, we're behind. And so I started having consulting gigs where I was just called in to help them understand Amazon ads and to understand the Amazon algorithm and what was going on with it. And so it's been crazy because I've seen like all spectrums, fantasy, nonfiction, or excuse me, fiction and nonfiction, New York Times bestselling to self. And it's just been a really cool, wild journey.
It's an amazing one as well. I remember using KDP Rockers years ago, and it was an amazing tool to use, and the results it gave you were fantastic.
Thank you.
Um, and
It's
yeah, it's
been a
great that it's
project I've
carried on
loved
as
too.
well. I know, yeah, and it's just goes to show like the quality that you've put into something like that, and everyone else has come knocking at your door. So it's a real testament to that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and obviously being a leader in this, you're constantly looking at Amazon, and you're looking for any new opportunities to exploit, and the new category system for
Yeah.
books. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So Amazon and categories, let me tell you what. I mean, Amazon is they can be really problematic. Okay. They make a lot of mistakes in my book, per se. But it's funny is I kind of laughingly joke and it's like, honestly, because Amazon really sucks at getting information out there and doing things right and, educating. It's like I jokingly say, I still have a job. So it's like I want to complain about them and say, like, you guys are terrible at this, but at the same time, I'm like, well, okay. Um,
Please keep screwing
but
up.
yeah, right. So, to best explain the new Amazon category system, let me just briefly cover the old one so that authors kind of understand maybe the why this happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So back before the new system, which is about what, like a year and a half ago or so. Okay. And it phased in. So that's why it's really hard to nail down the exact dates. Not like on this date, on this time that, they did the jump. They do this weird migration thing. Um, it used to be that when you went to publish your book on Amazon, so you go into KDP, they ask you to select two categories. Okay. Here's the thing, those weren't categories, they were called BISACs. Now, BISACs are an international standardization category system. Okay. BISACs were created because there were publishing companies that would look at their book and they would just be like, that's a Wiccan book. That's a Wiccan category. And they would ship it off to all the stores, and the stores would open up the box and look at the book and be like, Wiccan? Is that fantasy or is that nonfiction? Is that religious? Like, what do I do with this? And so the
Yeah.
book kept getting put in the wrong spot. Now imagine too something like Powell's book, like a giant book store compared to a mom and pop bookstore. Okay, the
Yeah.
mom and pop bookstore might only have like 4 shelves, you know, but the giant one has hundreds of shelves, right? And so it became problematic. So they created the standardization system where there's only 5,000 BISACs, 5,000 plus BISACs. And that when you go to publish a book, you would choose a BISAC, and that BISAC has like a number system so that in the computers, the store, when they get the book, they just look at the BISAC. They're like, okay, well, our store says that this BISAC automatically goes to that shelf. So now there's no more, human component. People could just quickly put it where it goes.
Yeah.
So Amazon adopted the BISAC system. The problem with this is that Amazon has over 12,000 categories. The BISAC is 5 and Amazon is 12. Okay, 5,000 and 12,000. So because if an author didn't know this, if they selected those two BISACs, which they didn't know as BISACs, they just thought they were categories, okay, they would 9 times out of 10 get put into the Amazon category that's connected with that BISAC. But a lot of times they would get put into something different that they didn't select. And then on top of that too, if because there's 12,000 categories, Amazon had a system where authors could then contact Amazon and say, hey, Amazon, please put my book in these other categories as well. And so authors can contact Amazon through a form that they had and convince them to put their book in like 10 plus categories. Okay. Now, the reason why Amazon got rid of that system, okay, is because first off, they had hundreds, if not thousands, of authors every day contacting them to then change up their book into a category. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazon trying to cut costs, and increase profitability. So killing that off was a big thing. Number two is that there were authors that were just putting their book into whatever they wanted. And so there was a lot of times where, they might have written let's say a romance book about a math teacher. Okay. And the author was trying to put it into calculus because calculus books, if you sell 2 books on Amazon in the calculus category, you'd be #1 bestseller.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
romance book is always perennial #1 bestseller. So it was really mucking up the system. So then Amazon decided, okay, we're going to get rid of that. And instead, we're actually going to show them inside of KDP all of our categories. Okay. So now Amazon categories, and you can select 2. Okay. Boom, boom, done. That's it. No more contacting us, no more form, nada. Okay. And so to authors, this seems great. The problem is, again, Amazon doesn't tell you all of it, and I kind of feel like they lied about this one. I think there were such huge things that they should have told people that they didn't. Now,
Yeah.
one thing they did admit, and it's in fine print somewhere, it is something that says that they hold the right to change your categories, remove your categories, or add categories however they see fit. Okay. That is something they did write down. So you may select those 2 Amazon categories now, and Amazon, like a week later, might be like, no, thank you. We'll just throw you into this. And a
Yeah.
lot of authors were like, my book does not
Yeah.
in that. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. But there's no form to fill out. That sucks. So that was a little bit of an issue. Okay. And Amazon did not say what triggers it, but I'll tell you guys in a bit. Okay. But the second thing they did, all right, and this is probably the most heinous thing. They created categories that no matter what, if you go into that category, you cannot become a bestseller in that category. Why? Because there's no rankings in it. And I made up the term for this so as to help people understand what it is. We call them ghost categories. Okay. Well, get this. You got almost a 25% chance that a category in Amazon is a ghost category. A 1 in 4 chance. There is a really good chance that there are authors out there who selected only ghost categories. Okay. And no matter what they do in marketing, they will not hit #1 bestseller. They won't understand it. They're like, what's going on? Okay. It's because you're in ghost categories. And what sucks is there's no way that you can figure out if it's a ghost category unless you do a whole bunch of like crazy digital stuff, like it's really hard to explain, but it's
Yeah.
very complicated to figure out. Okay. So there's all these authors that are writing incredible books. They've done all their things, and then they put themselves in ghost categories, and no matter what, they don't hit their bestseller status.
Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, that really, really sucks. And the reason why Amazon is doing that is, well, for a couple of reasons. But one of the biggest ones is that they get a lot of requests from for new categories. And in order to add a new category to their system, to do it right, it requires a lot of craziness in the website structure. You don't just create a new one and pop, there it is, there's a new page. For
Yeah.
them, that's a lot of work, and they don't want to have to do that. So they can create a category so you can, yay, there's a new category that fits my book. And they didn't have to lift a finger to do a lot of it.
Yeah.
Um, not to do anything political here, okay? Or push anything. This is not my point, but it does help illustrate the thing. There are a lot of new LGBTQ categories, that Amazon's been adding. A massive amount of them are ghost categories. Like
Do
it's
you
crazy.
think do you think like they could just be waiting to generate enough titles within them categories before they turn them? No,
Nope,
but
because
it's just too much
when you
work.
look at what is a ghost, you'll find ones that are super popular.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like for example, paranormal romance. I think it's just
That's
paranormal romance is a ghost,
really
which
that's
is kind
huge
of
as
funny
well,
because
isn't
paranormal romance and it's a ghost. Okay, sorry,
it?
fun somewhat not intended. But that being said, though, and it's something. It's not just paranormal romance. It's like paranormal romance, or romance, or whatever. That is a huge category that's been around for a long time, but it's a ghost category. And
Yeah.
so if you put your book in that, you get nothing from it. So that's a huge issue. And then finally, also too, there's a lot of duplicate categories out there. So this is the third and final major. You got to be kidding me. Okay. Um, so for example, what I mean by this is that in science fiction and fantasy, science fiction, and I can't remember off the top of my head an example, but we'll say like alien invasion. Okay. If you select that, there's also a category in literary fiction, science fiction, alien invasion. There's also maybe another category somewhere else. They're all duplicates of each other because if you put yourself in one, it automatically, like all of the books in those three that examples I gave, they're really just one list.
Yeah.
So you might be thinking to yourself, oh, this is perfect. And then you're getting it, it's one of the most competitive categories you could be in. And you don't realize it, right?
Yeah.
But here's the fun. So what are authors to do about this, right? Well, first off, now that you only get three choices, it's more important than ever to do your research on your categories. Just showing up to Amazon's KDP and just randomly selecting three is a really bad idea. Even more so now that Amazon has made it that you only get the three and then they kind of control it. Okay.
Yeah.
With ghost categories, honestly, the best thing you could do is just know what a ghost category is, which ones are ghost categories, and avoid them as much as possible. Okay.
Yeah.
Just don't play those. Those are bad. And they're not going to do anything for you. You feel good because you marked it, but
Yeah.
marketing wise, it sucks.
What's the biggest sort of telltale sign you'd say for someone looking for a ghost category?
Uh, well, to do it manually, you got to go to Amazon.com, the website. So outside of KDP, You got to search for that category. You got to find that category. Okay. And by the way, you can't use the category tree that shows up on the left because they don't exist. So they don't show up on those. You have to search for it and find the actual node, which by the way, means you have to know the exact number for that category. Usually you need software, some kind of tell to figure out what the category node is. Go to that particular page. And if it doesn't have the name of the category on it, like, so it will just say like bestseller 46270
Yeah.
instead of, fantasy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's a ghost. If it's using just a number
Numbers.
for
Yeah.
its title, that's a ghost. Now, some people may say, like in KDP, you can click on the categories that are there. Those aren't category pages. And this is one of the things that makes me feel like they're hiding this ghost thing is that they send you to a marketing page, not the actual categories page. So you can't click on that link in KDP to go check out the category. It'll just take you to something that looks cool, but
Yeah.
it's not actually taking you to the categories page where you can see, is it ghost or is it not? So, um, so the manual way is to do that. That's one of the things that my team and we figured out, and we put it in Publisher Rocket. That now, when you go to the category feature, you can see every category that's a duplicate, and what it's connected to. You can see if it's ghost or not, and you can make a much better decision.
Nice.
I don't know of any other way other than knowing the nodes
Yeah.
or Publisher Rocket. So.
Another reason to use
So kind
publisher
of
rockets.
what?
Another good reason to use publisher rockets.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is that Amazon's always changing and it's really important, to stay on top of it. And again, I still don't understand why Amazon did the ghost thing, except unless, just being lazy to an extent, and then also not telling people.
I
Like
know.
that kind of sucks.
And then just
Um,
cutting off any sort of form of communication with anybody.
yeah. Well, a weird thing. Let's say you're a major publishing company and you have gotten a big name author, and you're publishing it, this book's going to go great. And then your team in your publishing division selects a whole bunch of ghost categories because they don't know it. No
Yeah.
matter what they're like, oh, like all of that momentum, all of that work, all of the money they spent, and they can't get a bestseller tag, So it's one of those things where it's just like, man, that just kind of sucks that they're doing it. So that's the new category system. And I'm going to put one last nugget for people on this too. Is that so the duplicates? So we talked about the ghost categories. Okay, we talked about their new system and everything like that. Duplicate categories, though, I actually like those. I tell authors they should maybe target one if they can. The reason why I love the duplicates, at least one, okay, is that I said those three examples. All three of those are in different main categories. Okay. So I, made up science fiction and fantasy is one main category. Literary fiction is another main category. And then we'll say YA. Okay. They all have an alien invasion in them. Um, I get lumped into all of the alien invasion category. Got it. But if my book sells really well, I could either be placed as the best, science fiction and fantasy, science fiction category. I could be placed in the, I'm now the bestseller in the literary fiction, science fiction category, as
Yeah.
well as the YA. So it gives me more options of showing up in Amazon, especially if my sales are very good and I can bump myself up to the next level. So a duplicate's not a bad thing. Just know that they're usually really competitive. I would
Yeah.
almost say to like major publishing companies or big time authors, or authors that have like huge email lists or whatever, that, for sure hit that duplicate. Otherwise, maybe be aware of the fact that
Yeah.
you're putting yourself in a category that you're going to have to fight tooth and nail to have relevance in.
Nice. That's all fascinating stuff. And you've done really good research there as well, getting into the nuts and bolts of the code. So that's off to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Well,
look into that for sure.
one of the things that's really helped me is first and foremost, I'm an author and I'm constantly using Amazon and I'm constantly trying to figure out how to make my author business better. The
Yeah.
second thing is that, having a coding background and working with programmers, sometimes I'm able to look under the hood of Amazon and understand more than what's on the surface. And so combining those two things together has just been like absolutely fun.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to kind of break the news on the duplicates as well as the ghost categories. It's what's allowed me to kind of figure out their algorithm and their keywords. And there was
Yeah.
another thing too that we developed as well was that we found that there's a couple of keywords for each category that someone should use as one of their keywords in order to really solidify their books staying in a category.
Mm.
So we've kind of alerted authors, hey, here's a couple of keywords you might want to put into your 7 Kindle keyword boxes so as to make sure you have staying power in the category.
Yeah.
So just a lot of stuff. Sorry, I know it was a drinking from a fire hose, but I just wish Amazon was just open,
I know.
about this kind of
I
stuff.
don't think that's not really their jam.
No,
But
they've never displayed a desire for that.
yeah, since you mentioned the algorithm, could you tell us a bit about what kind of things Amazon looks for when someone uploads a book?
Yeah. So, that could be a super technical response, and I'm not going to. What I'm going to paint the story, okay? Uh, when I'm going to make us all sound like humans. So we'll make it the Amazon human and the author human, okay? We take our book and we upload it to Amazon, okay? Now, imagine Amazon like looking at this book. What is this? Is it Wiccan? Is it religious? Is it, nonfiction? Is it fantasy? Is it what? I don't know what to do. Well, when we're filling out the information in KDP, we're helping them.
Yeah,
We're saying, all right, look, Amazon, okay, this book is a fiction. It is a fantasy. It is all these things, okay? Now, that could be in the words in our title and subtitle, okay? That could be the categories we select. It's the words we put in our book description. It's the 7 Kindle keyword boxes that we put in there. All of that is helping Amazon to say, oh, I know not only what this book is, but where it should go. Got it. Thanks for the help. Okay. So it's not about doing one thing. It's not like this hack where, okay, you put this one word here and next thing you know, you got it. No, it's not that. It's everything. The way I explain it to authors is the more confident Amazon is with what your book is, who it's for, like and what sub genre or whatever, the more confident they are, the more they do.
yeah,
The authors that get there to KDP and they just randomly come up with some categories and they randomly come up with some words and their keywords and they throw up their book description, and that's all they do and they move on. That's the one where Amazon's like, I don't really know what to do with this. And so they kind of sprinkle it, but they don't really help because they
yeah,
can't. You tied their hands behind their back, right? So the key is as an author is to approach it from how do I best help Amazon? Okay. For example, in nonfiction, using describing, and I've got articles about this, like for example, if you type into Google like nonfiction keywords for Amazon or anything like that, or fiction keywords, depending on what book you are, because they're different, you'll find this step-by-step process that it will help you. But in nonfiction, I found that you should have phrases and words that are either the pain point, the problem that you're, running into, the thing that you're trying to struggle with, or the way you would describe the result that you want. Agitation words like fast, I want to lose weight fast. 7 steps to, like these
yeah,
kind of, and then finally the demographic, as in who is this book for? Is this single moms? Is this you know, busy parents? Is this, for kids? Is this these things help Amazon because now they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I should show it in front of these people. So
yeah,
those really important. And sometimes crafting the best subtitle is one that says, lose weight fast, for single moms, or whatever. Or that might be your title. And then your subtitle is, don't have time, busy with work. This book will solve it, or something like that.
yeah,
Using those words that the customer would use to describe what they're looking for. And then now Amazon's like, oh, when they type this in, I should show this book here. Same thing with your keywords and your book description and your categories. They all help to say to Amazon, yes, this is really about how to lose weight. This is about people who time is a problem, and it is for these specific people. I feel great about this. Next time somebody types that in, I want to show that book first because it seems like it's going to answer their problems. Um, with fiction, it's about describing the story. You know, it's the setting and time period. It's the type of main character. It's the catalyst that starts the story. It's the flavor of the genre. These are all incredibly important. And I'm going to just break down one of them specifically, but like the flavor of the genre is probably the most important thing a fiction author could do because, let's say the word romance. Well, not to make another joke, but there's 50 shades of romance here, okay? There's thousands, honestly, to be honest. Because on one side of the spectrum, you could have wholesome, clean, we'll say, Christian romance or something like that. And on the other hand, you got like the BDM or what, erotica to the max or something.
Yeah.
Well, it's important for romance readers to ensure that the book they're getting is their kind of romance, you
Yeah.
know? And so shoppers will want to clarify that. They will use those words, they will
Yeah.
say, same thing with mystery, different types of mystery, wholesome, clean, to bloody gore,
Yeah.
to serial killers and the words they use to describe the story they're looking for is incredibly important. And the more you align your book to one of those, the more confident Amazon is on
Yeah.
where they should put it. They're not going to put, Christian wholesome in the bondage one. They're not going to put blood and gore in the, cozy mystery.
Yeah.
They're going, and that's the key. And so that's the first part of it to the algorithm. The algorithm is taking in the information you provide them. They call it metadata. And they're like, okay, let's give it a try. The second part to the algorithm is then convincing them that, yeah, you belong there. They give you the opportunity, they show you to their customers, and now you need to prove to them that customers are happy with you being there. Okay. So if I type in like cozy mystery in a small town, or ex sleuth cozy mystery in a small town. Okay. Um, and my cover has like darkness and it's got like, these ominous eyes in the background and somebody with a flashlight, standing there. And I don't, even if your book truly is a ex sleuth cozy mystery in a small town, there is nothing on your cover that helps the shopper to say, oh, yeah, that looks like a great, ex sleuth cozy mystery in a small town.
Yeah.
Nothing. They're not going to click on it. They're not going to engage.
Yeah.
And that book will fall out of grace and will not show up on searches because it's a mix match. Your cover doesn't match what the shoppers are looking for. You got it in front of them, it doesn't fit. Okay. Or let's say you nail the cover. Okay. You got the small town elements. You've got, something that shows it's ex sleuth. You've got all these elements that says, ooh, this looks like a really good, comfy, cozy, mystery. Like this is my jam. This is my type. Then they click on your book. Okay. And they go to look and they start reading your book description. And your book description is like, it's written like a book report. It is giving away every detail. You almost know who the killer is already before you even, or the criminal before you even read the book. Like,
Yeah.
and 7 different characters introduced. Like, or you write it and you put too much in the element of the murder, the first murder that happened. And now it sounds like it's scary, gory. Okay. Then what you're going to have is you'll have a lot of people engage with your book because your book cover and your title look great and it looks like it fits. But then they get to the disjointedness of your book description. They're like, nope, peace be with you.
Yeah.
And back out and they look for another book. Well, Amazon's watching all of this. They're watching. And you know what? If people are clicking on it, they're going to keep you around. You might not be number one, but they'll keep you around because at least shoppers are showing that, hey, when I type this in, I do engage with this book. But
Yeah.
if they're not converting and they're not buying, Amazon's all about what makes them more money. So they'll be like, well, when this book was here, we made a lot of money. And then we put this new book in here and we don't make as much money. Bloop. They bring, the moneymaker up top again and they move your book down if that's the case.
Yeah.
if you can prove to them that, oh no, like people that type that in, yeah, that's the book they want, and then they purchase it, then by golly, you're going to show up number one. And this is kind of like, for example, a very crude example, but if somebody types in your exact title, 9 times out of 10, they're looking for your exact title, whether they heard it on a podcast, a friend recommended, or whatever. And that's why the algorithm of Amazon will put that book number one for your title, because that's what makes them more money. However, though, there's been a lot of authors that are like, look, I'll type in the title of my book and I can't find it anywhere. Yeah, that's because somehow it's been proven that when they type in that title, your book is not what they're engaging with.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a couple of people that have tried to game the system by titling their book with, like, a very popular word, or something like that. That way
Yeah.
people, you're kind of hurting yourself. You're sending the signal to Amazon that, hey, this book isn't popular. People don't like it. And when we show it, they don't engage.
Yeah.
Algorithm. Ooh.
No,
So
that's
honestly, that's
really
a
interesting.
really
Yeah.
quick discussion on how Amazon's A9 algorithm works. And by the way, I call it the algorithm. For all those tech people out there that are cringing for me saying it, I understand Amazon has lots of algorithms. To call it just one is a misnomer. That being said, is when I talk about the algorithm, I talk about their search bar algorithm,
Yeah.
and it did used to actually have a name called A9. So
Oh, there you go then.
just a
Nice.
caveat for the techie people out
Yeah,
there. I acknowledge, but it's easier just to talk about the algorithm.
definitely. Yeah. I suppose we're running out of time, but one thing I wanted to ask you about was ads on Amazon because I know a lot of authors gravitate towards Amazon ads because this is where the readers are. So it makes sense to spend money on ads, but people have a lot of mixed results with it. So do you use ads a lot in your strategies? And
I love ads. And well, excuse me, let me say it. I love Amazon ads. I think
yeah,
Amazon, though, honestly, not to sound jerky or so, but if Amazon hired me as a consultant to step in, I swear I could fix like 5 things that would dramatically improve both sides' lives. Okay.
yeah,
So I say that not as it's not a prideful statement, it's not a cocky statement. It's just to state that there are problems that exist that I'm just scratching my head that they didn't fix. So it's not a perfect system. I have seen the system improve over time. But you kind of mentioned it. One of the reasons why I love Amazon ads more than other ads like Facebook, et cetera, and all these is that for Amazon ads, well, let's talk about Facebook ads. On Facebook ads, I have to be really, really good at it because people go to Facebook because they're bored or they want to, check out the cat video or what people are eating or what's going on, all that. I got to create an ad that stops them from that, convinces them that at that moment they want a book,
mhm,
and then to send them somewhere to go get a book. Or, for some of the other added strategies, just some no-name person I want to go sign up for their email list. So I get marketed for their book. Like that's a lot of marketing gumption. That's it's very doable. There are a lot of people that make money doing it, but that's a lot of work. You got to be really good. With Amazon ads, I don't have to convince them to go buy a book. They're on Amazon because they wanted to buy a book.
yeah,
Great. All I got to do is convince them to buy my book. That's it. They already have an account with Amazon. All they have to do is click one button, one click buy, boom, there it is. Goes right to their Kindle, or the shipment is all processed and done. I just got to convince them that my book's the one. So I really enjoy that about Amazon ads. But here's my caveat to Amazon ads. I tell authors this all the time. Amazon ads is a skill. The best way to think of it, okay? It is not I watched a course, and then I set some things up, and then I sat back and I came back a month later and I'm like, oh, what happened? I mean,
yeah,
honestly, your chances of success doing that is like 5%. Okay. That's why you'll have a lot of people out there that will they'll do the Amazon ads and like, this doesn't work. It's kind of like learning how to juggle. You can't just throw 3 things in the air. And when you can't juggle immediately,
yeah,
and not belittling anybody. It's not knocking. It's just trying to explain it is one of those things where you really have to approach it like a skill. I want to learn how to juggle 6 balls in the air at once. Great. I will start with 1, 2, then move into 3. Oh boy, but to move to 4, like you are sharpening your knife. You are and so I tell people, but it's a wonderful skill. Once you have it down and you understand, and you really understand your genre or your subsection and what works, you start to gain intuition. I'll talk about that in a second, about things to do and not do. Your quickness to profitability is a lot faster. Your propensity to make a mistake is a lot smaller. You can find these things that kind of help you to get above the rest real quickly. Okay. And so I use the word intuition. I think it's the best way to talk about mastering a skill, especially in marketing. Okay. My submarine captain once said this to me, and it stuck with me. He said he doesn't believe in the word mastery. There's no such thing. Mastery is the peak, it's perfection, it doesn't exist. He's like, but those that we call masters, what they really have is they have intuition. Okay. And, they intuitively know what to do faster than most. Can they still make mistakes? Yes, of course. Can they still learn more things? Yes, of course. Can they still be
Yeah.
beat? Yes, of course. But they're quicker to realize I've been beat. They've been quicker to realize they made a mistake. They're quicker to choose the right decision. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, gain intuition with two things. Okay. Knowledge plus experience. So, yes, learn how to do Amazon ads. Matter of fact, I have a free online video course on it, and you can find it at amscourse.com. Take the course. 100% free. The key thing is don't just try it once. Don't just try it for a day. Don't just try it for a week, but
Yeah.
devote time. And I talk about this in the course. Make like a 30 minutes on Monday, 30 minutes on Wednesday, and 30 minutes on Friday, and do that for a whole bunch of weeks, no matter what, and gain the experience. Practice, try something, and all of a sudden you're going to be able to, I can step into an ad in my genres and my topics and get it profitable infinitely faster than, 4 years ago, when this kind of thing
Yeah.
was working out. I'm even better at it than I was, 6 months ago, because I know these little things. And I'll give you an example of between we'll say an intuitive Amazon ads person and I tried some things. Okay. An intuitive ads person kind of knows, and this is one of the tricks that I've done with a certain genre, and it was for hard science, okay, which is a science fiction that really tries to be as real in using science in order to make it science fiction, so it's not just saying there's a magical, propulsion drive. They'll actually talk about, like, sonic pulse beam, and they'll actually break it out. The
Yeah.
Martian, anybody's watched it or read the book, that's hard science. Okay. Well, I don't just do advertisements for the word hard science. It's too competitive. The cost per click is too high. I might put it in there just so the Amazon ads knows it's hard science, but I may like make it that only if it's like 30 cents, like I'll do that.
Yeah.
Where I attack is I go after astrophysics books, quantum mechanics books, and any other crazy science fiction, I'm sorry, science book, textbooks. And that's because nobody's advertising on those. There's no
Yeah.
competition. But I'll tell you what, if you're reading, Stephen Hawking's and stuff like that, then your flavor of genre is probably hard science
Yeah.
fiction.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm getting clicks for like 10 cents, and I'm getting really highly engaged people because my book description is about the hard science and the specifics, and my
Yeah.
advertising has those words, and everything. It's so much easier to success. So something like that, using a tertiary understanding that really fits, is a part of what I call the intuition of the advertisement instead of the direct thing, which is hard science fiction, books like, The Martian,
Yeah.
all these things that everybody else just sitting there that for the first time will just kind of come up with. And so that's just kind of a prime example. And that comes from knowledge plus experience. You start gaining, you stumble across a keyword that is somehow raking in money, like
Yeah.
ROI, and you ask yourself, what? How did that? And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, science, people studying science in textbooks. That's what it is. And you're
Yeah.
like, and that's where things just really take off. So I wanted to explain that because a lot of people will get started and they'll waste a month and then they just quit because it's like, this doesn't work. It works. It's just, it's a skill. I still can't juggle. Okay. Not that I tried hard, but I dabbled on it and my like kids laugh at me when the ball hits. Don't be the 1 week juggler. If you're choosing that skill, it's a great skill. It does work, but you have to stick with it. You have to know that it's about knowledge plus experience.
Ah, excellent. It's such an insightful thing. I'm pretty gutted that we've run out of time, but it's we could chat for hours about Amazon and all the things that
Oh
you've learned
yeah,
over the years. It's so amazing, interesting and amazing listening to you talk. So, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights.
absolutely. Well, and like I said, thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem at all. Thanks for you sharing what you learned about the categories as well, because that's a
Yeah,
big development that a lot of writers need to be aware of. So, thank you very much.
absolutely. Like it's just one of those things where I wish Amazon would make that clear, and that really sucks for all the authors that chose ghost categories on thinking that they were going to hit their bestseller and nada. So
Yeah.
more we get that out there, the better it is for the self-published community.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll change as well. If anyone listening at home wants to learn a bit more about you and Kindlepreneur and Publisher Rocket, where's the best place to go?
Kindlepreneur.com. Matter of fact, I've got an about me page or I've got a contact page as well. So if there's something we talked about on this that you're just like, wait, what? Hold on. I got a question. Hit me up there.
Ah, brilliant. Thank you very much again, Dave. And thank you everyone at home for listening.